What is a flag? Pieces of brightly colored cloth sewn together? The emblem of one state? A nation? They're a part of our ceremonies where we reflect on our history and honor those who have defended the flag and what it represents. They represent the honor and sacrifice of the selfless and the brave. A symbol of the value and loyalties which we hold dear. (1861 to 1865), the period of the Civil War. The very fabric of our nation and loyalties were tested. As a nation divided, men and women on both sides rallied round their flags as symbols of the cause for which they fought. They were the emblems on the field that the soldiers would follow. The flags carried bravely by the color bearer into enemy fire. These soldiers understood the need for flags. Amid the smoke and the noise, the flag could always be seen on the chaotic battlefield. Not just to mark a position, but to serve as inspiration, to rally the courage that was needed that day. The United States Army set guidelines in 1861 and again in 1863 for the flags that were to be carried into battle. The first flag each regiment was to carry was the national flag, or national colors. The number and name of the regiment to be embroidered with silver on the center stripe. It was to be 6 feet and 6 inches wide and 6 feet high. It had yellow fringe with cords and tassels. The second, or regimental color, was to be blue for infantry or yellow for artillery, the name of the regiment in a scroll underneath the eagle. They were to be large, more than 6 feet wide and 6 feet deep on the pike, with yellow fringe, cords, and tassels. But not all flags followed the Army's standards, as regiments would create a flag that had personal meaning. The colors and symbols would express the beliefs and ideals of the men. Red represented valor and bravery, while blue spoke of vigilance, justice, and freedom. An eagle was a display of courage. The olive branch was peace or victory, and the arrows were emblems of strength and defense. The flag of the Guidon, which marked the position of artillery and used by cavalry, was swallow-tailed, to be half red and half white, and bearing both the U.S. letters and the letters of the company. But these would vary, many resembling the national colors. The battle flag was always located right in the middle of a regiment, so men to the left and to the right could always see it.
The battle flag is the most important symbol of a regiment during the American Civil War. It was an important symbol for the following reasons. Everybody followed the flag, and the reason they followed the flag was not just for patriotic purposes, but because it was a visible sign of where you were on the battlefield. In the smoke and the confusion and the noise and the horror of battle, that flag was higher. It was more elevated than anything else around you. And so soldiers were trained to always look for the battle flag to help them identify where they should be, what their position was. If you couldn't find your flag, you were lost, and you never wanted to be lost in battle. So the battle flag was not just a symbol of pride and patriotism, but it was what you followed when you went into battle. The battle flag was always located right in the middle of a regiment. It was always located in the front line, in the middle, in the center, so that men to the left and to the right could always see it. They also usually would choose the tallest man in a regiment to carry the colors. And the reason for that was, once again, was because it would elevate. For the enemy, taking down the battle flag was always priority one. And the reason you'd want to do that was, not only was that a source of pride for the enemy to take the flag down to the ground, but it would create consternation and confusion and frustration and uncertainty in the ranks of the enemy. And so the person, the color bearer, carrying the flag, always was one of the first targets of enemy shooters. If they could take that color bearer down and that flag went down to the ground, typically they could stop the momentum of a regiment, or certainly confuse it at the minimum.
A young color bearer prior to the First Battle of Manassas wrote in a letter home,
I have a position just under the flag, and woe be the Yankee who tries to take it from me, for we've sworn to preserve it or perish beneath its folds. What a glorious death.
On November 17, 1863, in East Tennessee, being hard-pressed by the Confederates under Longstreet, the 2nd, 17th, and 20th Michigan Infantry were in a rearguard action to cover the retreat to the Union-held positions of Knoxville.
The enemy pressed boldly forward, and the whole brigade was soon hotly engaged. Among the bravest of the men was Private Joseph E. Brandle. Even though severely wounded, he still held to the colors, and he called upon the men to stand firmly by the standard he bore. Lieutenant Colonel Loren Comstock.
Private Brandle became one of the first to receive the Medal of Honor for his heroic actions that day. Flags were carried into actions both large and small, and by those units who faced some of the fiercest battles. The 7th West Virginia Infantry, the unit which became known as the Bloody Seventh, fought in more battles and suffered incredible losses, greater than any other West Virginia regiment during the Civil War.
A good example that illustrates the battle flag and its importance, and also the danger of carrying the battle flag, occurred in the Battle of Antietam, September the 17th, 1862. Now, Antietam is known as the bloodiest single day in American military history. There would be nearly 23,000 casualties, dead, wounded, and missing in only 12 hours. And one of the bloodiest parts of the bloodiest day in American history occurred at a place called Bloody Lane. And West Virginians would fight in front of Bloody Lane, attacking Confederates from Alabama and North Carolina. The Confederates had great advantage. They're going to be down low in the lane, and the Federals, the 7th West Virginia, in long line, can't see them. There's a hill between the 7th West Virginia and these Confederates in this sunken road. And so as the Federals, the West Virginians, the 7th West Virginia Regiment, is coming up over this hill, the first thing the Confederates see is the battle flag.
The flag that exists today for this infantry unit began life as a commemorative flag. Presented to the state's first governor, Arthur I. Borman, on January 25, 1864, it represented the many battles in which the regiment fought. It is believed that later that summer, this flag was carried to the tragic Battle of Cold Harbor, where tens of thousands of men were lost. The significant stories of West Virginia's Civil War battle flags are still told today.
Our Civil War battle flags became part of the collection of the West Virginia Historical and Antiquarian Society in 1890, and in 1905, they became the property of the West Virginia State Museum. Over the years, the flags have been exhibited at various intervals, and in 2009, they became part of the permanent exhibit here at West Virginia Independence Hall.
Often, a battle flag was actually sewn or painted by women from a community which a regiment would hail. In many respects, a regiment's identity revolved around its flag. They knew what it represented, their cause, their homes, their families, their sense of honor, and their sense of duty to their country and to each other. The battle flags, which suffered from the ravages of war and the passage of time, were conserved by the Textile Preservation Associates of Sharpsburg, Maryland. Recognizing their fragile condition, great care was given to replace torn stitching and fabric fragments so that no further damage would take place, a process requiring a most delicate touch.
Flag conservation is really important to stabilize these artifacts for future generations by doing minimally invasive treatments, and we can ensure that they can be handled by future generations for scholars who want to study them, and for people that just want to understand the history and story of our country. So it's very important work.
Projects such as the Civil War Battle Flags exhibit are the result of local community efforts in concert with larger agencies and organizations. The West Virginia Independence Hall Foundation, while creating the seed for this priceless exhibit, recognizes the importance of our donors, the West Virginia Division of Culture and History, and the state of West Virginia. It is within the local community and with numerous volunteer hours that the preservation of our history and a connection with the present is made.
The flag carries with it the stories of bravery, of sacrifice, and of honor. It carries our history, which tells us who we have been, who we are, and who we can be.